Hey everyone, welcome into Patterns Tell Stories. I'm your host Klaus, and today we're going to be talking about seances, the Schumann resonance, and what Arrow calls UAP engagement. With me today, as always, is my co-host Garrett. How's it going, man?
I'm good. How are you doing, dude?
I'm good. Nice little morning recording we're doing for the first time today. We were going to record last night, but I think Garrett had other plans. Getting a little wine drunk and yelling at QAnon people. I'm just kidding. Yeah, his mom's birthday. It was his mom's birthday. So yeah. So let's just get into it, dude. I guess 2 days ago it was weird. They usually release these reports on Fridays, from what I remember. But on, I think it was Wednesday afternoon. Well, first there was a CNN report that came out where Kirkpatrick, who, for those who don't know, Arrow is the Pentagon's new UAP office. Well, it's not so new anymore. It got put into place about 2 or 3 years ago, really a year ago. It's where it's been actually like doing shit. They kind of put it off for a year, but they came out with a new report, and it's basically just bullshit. You know, it's they could have put this shit together in a day, and it wouldn't look any different. Basically, it really just has an update on the number of cases that have been reported to them in the past year since the last report came out, and that's pretty much it. They just like repeat the same bullshit over and over. I guess there's a few graphs in there that look like they were made by a 5-year-old in fucking kindergarten class or something. So there's really nothing much. It just looks like they were trying to take up space. So basically what happened was on Wednesday, Kirkpatrick did an interview with CNN that was released a few hours before the report dropped. So essentially, he was trying to spin the report and downplay anything that might be taken seriously or people might have actual questions about. He tried to get in front of it pretty much. And I think it's really telling that Kirkpatrick can't, just let a report drop without having to preempt it with his own opinion or his own spin. Every single fucking time something happens where the government has to address UFOs, they act sketchy over and over again. Like, why did he have to spin this report? No one even knew it was really coming out until the day of. So, yeah, the CNN article drops where he basically acts like a gatekeeper. The mask kind of slips where he's like, I can tell you that we're looking into this and there's some interesting signatures. And that's about all I can tell you. He clearly just doesn't give a fuck about about the public. And just the fact that he had to spin it and he couldn't just let it come out without having his commentary beforehand, I think says a lot about it.
Well, and I certainly noticed with Kirkpatrick, every time he talks about this subject, and then when I follow up and look at his qualifications, I find that I'm always really, I don't know if this makes sense, but I'm really impressed at how qualified scientifically of an individual he is. And then when he speaks, it's almost insulting because I'm for real. Because like every time he speaks, it is very unscientific. It's very not curious. He has no sense of wonder when he talks about like our planet and what people are actually describing, what these pilots are describing. And for those who aren't aware, like his background is in plasma science, right? Like his I think his PhD had to do with either like electromagnetics or plasma or something really unique.
Oh,
And
yeah. This guy knows his shit. He was picked for this for, a reason. I mean, and I don't even think really his scientific background is the reason, but he's definitely qualified. I think they found the right guy in someone who would continue the cover up, have enough public speaking ability to give interviews, and also have the credentials. But you're right, he is definitely scientifically trained for this position.
just when it comes to his attitude towards UFOs and the people who want to have disclosure, I feel like he fundamentally misunderstands what these people are asking for. It sounds like he wants to conflate people who think this phenomenon is real as like wishful thinking cultists and internet trolls. And that's just not the case whatsoever. Like, of course, those people are there, and I've come across many of them. But the problem is when we conflate the entire subject to that, the cover up continues. You know what I mean? And that's one of the reasons why To the Stars was so integral, in my opinion, was because like they set out for a specific mission, and Dave Fravor said it in his sworn testimony with Grush and with Lieutenant Ryan Graves. Dave Fravor was talking. He said that he had heard that Lou Elizondo was upset and he resigned in protest, and that he joined Tom DeLonge's company, To the Stars Academy, and along with other names like Steve Justice, who's a respectable, honorable guy. You know what I mean? Steve Justice, for those who don't know, he was like one of the head engineers for Lockheed's Skunk Works. That's not an easy job to get, you know? And I consider Steve Justice, all of these individuals are brave, but I consider Steve Justice one of the bravest, because we all know the associations behind Lockheed Martin, or the rumors around Lockheed Martin and what they might possess. We're seeing two different narratives spilled out right now. And so far, the DoD narrative that has been nothing to see here. We have a couple orbs, like not really very extensive. Whereas all these other individuals that were honorable, respectable people, scientists, are saying, we don't know what's going on. Our pilots, we don't know what's going on. We're not capable of defending ourselves had we engaged this tic tac. I feel like what Kirkpatrick's been saying has not given anybody peace of mind in any area. It has only given the DoD more time to try to obfuscate this topic. I don't fully know. It's easy to throw stones, I feel like, from my perspective, because I really don't know the entirety and scope of why this cover up is happening, you know? But, like, at the end of the day, it's been how many years? Over 70 years since Roswell. And the obfuscation has been there since day one. And that's something Tim Burchett keeps hearkening back to, is like, we just want transparency on this. And I feel like Kirkpatrick is the king of obfuscation when it comes to trying to be clear with the American people about this topic. We've heard multiple credible people say that they have among the most compelling video, photo. I know I shared the other day Chris Mellon talking about one of our satellites that can see down to the deepest depths of the ocean, up to the very peak of our atmosphere. Why don't we get the ball rolling on that type of data and share that with the American people, or at least share what isn't a risk to national security? I think that they should share, because at the end of the day, the American people paid for that data.
One of the most obnoxious parts about this report is that it says nothing in the main body of it. It repeats itself over and over, says we have this many, we worked with these agencies, and then it hints, like maybe once, it hints at anomalous craft. And the rest of it is about fucking balloons, and, you know, might as well put seagulls in there at this point. It's fucking, just fuck with us. But the thing is, at the end of the report, there's an appendix that says a glossary of terms. And pretty much everything in this glossary is describing anomalous phenomena that the rest of the report basically just ignores. So in these definitions, like I'll read a couple of them right now just to kind of explain like what I'm talking about. Like what they do in the glossary, they define UAP as sources of anomalous detections in one or more domains, airborne, seaborne, spaceborne, and or transmedium, that are not yet attributable to known actors, and that demonstrate behaviors that are not readily understood by sensors or observers. And then it goes into list spaceborne UAP, airborne UAP, seaborne UAP, transmedium UAP. Like, we have not heard Kirkpatrick say the fucking word transmedium once in like a comprehensive context. The one thing he said about transmedium is that they've disproven one of the cases. He said that during the the original NASA hearing, I think back in June or July, whenever that was. Yeah, there's a few more on here. UAP objects and material. Corporeal artifacts of UAP. UAP may contain one or more UAP objects, e.g. airborne craft exhibiting apparent anomalous capabilities. UAP material are samples in whole or in part of UAP objects, for example, debris. So in the glossary, they're talking about retrieving materials from, I assume, crashes. And then the most interesting one is called UAP engagement. This definition is bringing UAP under kinetic or non-kinetic fire to deny, disrupt, or destroy the phenomenon and or its objects. The phrase destroy the phenomenon is fucking bonkers. And it's only in the glossary that we even get any sort of mention of it. It's so bizarre. It's like, what the fuck do you mean destroy the phenomenon and or its objects? You have that in the glossary for a reason. You're not going to elaborate on that at all? Like, are you just fucking with us at this point? Like, it's crazy. I don't know. One more interesting one is UAP interrogation. The elicitation of UAP location, capabilities, characteristics, and or intent using passive and or active sensing capabilities, including but not limited to electro-optical imagery, infrared thermal, radio frequency radar, light, laser, LiDAR, LADAR, electromagnetic, gravitational, and radioactive means. Like, there's so much shit in this glossary, and they just, like, don't address it. Like, I don't know, dude. It drives me nuts. The phrase destroy the phenomenon.
I hear that, me, myself, as sleight of hand with language. When he says, like, phenomena, in my understanding, I think phenomena is plural. So, like, I think that when he says that, we know what that UFO, what that means is unidentified flying object, right? And so that lumps in a lot of things that aren't necessarily non-human intelligence, right? And I think when he says that, he's saying that, like, there may be debris or things that we deem are unsafe in our skies that we just destroy. And you know what? I that's how I understood it when I read that.
Right. But here, like, so it says destroy the phenomenon and or its objects. That to me says they're referring to the phenomenon as an entity because it's possessive of objects, right? That's how I read it. You know what I mean?
That's an interesting.
The phenomenon and or its objects. So it's something is possessing these objects. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe this is in the classified report.
I wonder if Congress, which is supposed to be the voice of the people, they seem to be as informed as the populace, maybe slightly more because of what they get to ask these people. Can we talk about how they finally got a fucking skiff? Oh my God. Like, that shit was taking forever. And now, finally, for those who weren't aware, a lot of that 3-person panel of Dave Grush, Ryan Graves, and Commander David Fravor, in their testimony to Congress, they were saying multiple times, they were saying, I can't answer that, but if we can get a skiff, I can give you more information on that. First off, they almost didn't even let them do this hearing under oath. That's something Jeremy Corbell pointed out, was like they were trying to make it to where this wasn't even under oath. They wanted it to seem as non-credible as possible. They ended up getting it under oath. Then they say they need a skiff. They wouldn't give them a skiff. I'm sure that there's issues that they can be granted that access within 5 minutes. Just recently, in the past few weeks, they were given, according to Representative Burchett, they were given access to skiffs to talk to these individuals. I'm very curious to see how that changes Congress's attitude towards this issue and what areas they're actually going to press and what doors they're going to knock on. Even stories like Bob Lazar. Why the fuck is Bob Lazar saying all these things? Is it because he's a liar? Is it because he was shown certain things that people wanted him to see? I'd like to get answers to a lot of these questions, and I think that Congress was in a position where they, like, really couldn't move the ball until they got access to that skiff and understood what doors to knock on. In general, I think when he's talking about destroying the phenomenon, now that you say that with that context, we might start to learn about what Tom was talking about with Starfish Prime and what we've learned about EMP. I've even heard that Italian commander Clarbruno Verdruccio mention weird things that we've learned with frequencies of UFOs. And I think that we might learn very soon everything exists on a spectrum, right? I think that we're going to start to learn more about how UAP, the reason why they just appear and disappear is because our sensors can only detect them when they're within a certain frequency. And if it is a higher technology deciding to show itself or not show itself, that adds a whole other realm of complication to this topic. One of the positive things you do hear from Elizondo is that apparently some of these things we can brick and we can use EMP and like make non-usable, at least temporarily, and make it seem like if an engagement were to happen, we wouldn't be totally caught off guard. And it seems like out of any capability we do have, that might be one that they might be okay with sharing. You know, like as far because a lot of this topic coming from them, they don't want to be in a position where they say we can't protect against XYZ. They want to be able to say, here's what we know, here's what we've done. You know what I mean? And I think the public's reaction to them saying we saw one of these things and we took it out, I think that would be much more positive if it did have any negative anything. And you know what I mean? Any negativity, the public I think would want to hear that we're able to defend ourselves and engage it. Otherwise, I bet they don't even want to mention it.
I think Eric Davis is the one who said, how do you investigate something scientifically that's so much more advanced than you? And then he goes on to call it, it's a counterintelligence problem. It's not a scientific problem because you can't study scientifically, something that's so elusive and unrepeatable. It's basically fucking with us. I always find that quote from Eric Davis to be interesting. So, it was a disappointment. Not really surprised about it. I'm just glad Gary Nolan's foundation, the Soul Foundation, is starting to kind of ramp up their stuff. They're having a conference or an inaugural event at Stanford, I think in mid-November. And the list is pretty impressive. It's Eric Davis is on there, Diana Pasulka, Jacques Vallée, and a bunch of other people. I think Chris Mellon's on there. And yeah, that should be a nice little kick in the ass where they can get the government's attention and, let certain departments know that there's academia just waiting in the wings ready to help them study this stuff. Because I think that would be helpful. Yeah, I think that's enough on the UAP report because I check out the glossary. That's literally the only thing worth reading and try to extrapolate from there because they didn't tell us shit.
That's something that is real interesting to me is that if we're trying to observe something that's intelligent, that's going to make our science really stretch. And we might have to start crossing over different areas where I know that scientists roll their eyes at religious folks because a lot of the way they talk is very unscientific and from points of authority. You're not going to get scientific truth out of scripture because modern science has only been around in the past 500 years. So how are we going to get anything scientific from the Bible? You won't. But you could get stuff that is maybe allegorical or poetic. I heard Jacques Vallée mention that in the real old Jeffrey Mishlove video he was saying that one idea that gets tossed around is that human beings are creating these things as a challenge to ourselves to get us through whatever challenges that our species faces collectively. So it could be that these things coming down and telling us not to drop nuclear bombs, telling us not to fight in these wars, it could be from the Jungian perspective, the collective unconscious evolutionarily providing humans the challenge it needs to survive as a species.
And that's something I love about Peter Levenda is he talks about needing a multidisciplinary approach to studying this, the UFO phenomenon. And he talks about, I think I've mentioned it before, that like science is so compartmentalized, like everyone's in their own little, corner and studying very specific things, and there's no real overview of all the different sciences. And it really pushes for more involvement from other areas of the humanities and anthropology. You can't leave it all up to the physicists because really physics is just one interpretation of the universe, and it's pretty fucking new. It might be the most useful at this point in time when it comes to studying the technology behind the UFO phenomenon. Another thing Levenda says is people talk about science a lot when what they really mean is technology. There's a difference between science and technology, and I think that needs to be thought about more in the context of this, the UFO subject. But speaking of Levenda, I think you had something you wanted to talk about that he wrote about or something like that.
Because we were hinting earlier, we were talking about seances. And
Yes.
we've mentioned this army doctor, Andrija Puharich, who he's not alive today. He was alive, like, I'm trying to like think of when he was born. I don't even fucking remember when Puharich was born. I know that fuck, hold on. Let me look this up because I think he died in
1996.
He died where? He died in 96, you said?
No, I'm just fucking kidding.
Oh, okay. Yeah, hold on. Let me look. Andrija Puharich was born in 1918 and lived to 1995. One of the interesting parts of Puharich, among many things, because the guy had a very strange, interesting life. When I read that Sinister Forces book 1, bro, I was like, I am learning every person's name that was at this bitch, and I'm gonna fucking try to take notes on all of them and what they do. But I gotta find it real quick.
Is this what Tom was talking about in his interview with Steve-O? He was talking about a seance where someone got possessed.
I would have to rewatch it to tell you for sure.
I did ask him about what
you asked him about Dr. Vinod?
Is that what it was? No, I asked him what the seance was, and he sent me a book that was like the Interdimensionals or something. But I could not find it in there, so I'm not sure that was the right one. But
this is what got me interested in this. Was there's two books that I want to recommend. One of them was Peter Levenda Sinister Forces series. That's a trilogy of books, but in book 1, it's called The Nine. And I'm going to explain what that was. And then the other book that got me into this was a book by Nick Redfern, who we mentioned when we were talking about Robert Oppenheimer. Nick Redfern wrote a book called Final Events. And it's talking about how like a lot of this obfuscation, in his opinion, and I feel like he builds a pretty strong case, comes from subsections within these programs that have a real religious way of thinking about UFOs. Like they think that they're demons, and he calls this group the Collins Elite. And I hear some of these favorite names we hear tossed around constantly asked on podcasts about the Collins Elite. It's not something that they dismiss, strangely enough. Like it's something that they're like, yeah, I mean, something along those lines might exist.
It's always like, yeah, they always have to clarify. It's like a loosely based, it's not like a fucking group, like an MJ12 type thing. It's a loosely based like belief system.
Right.
Connects the, top brass in the Air Force, and, because fucking the Air Force Academy is like in Colorado Springs, which is like the biggest evangelical. It has the biggest evangelical population in the country, or something like that. I read in this book, The Family. There's a documentary on Netflix actually about it. It's pretty good, and it talks about this kind of evangelical network that it controls a lot of the stuff that goes on in Washington, and it's really interesting. But there is one chapter on Colorado Springs, and they basically built this evangelical megachurch up on the top of this hill, like basically, so the Air Force Academy, you can see it from there, and it's like huge, and it's got the same colors as the Air Force, and it's like super obvious that they're trying to just recruit, everyone who's at the academy. They have what they call cells, I guess, like a group of people who go and try to recruit Air Force people into their church, and it's actually really kind of disturbing. And I think that has a lot to do with why certain, high-ranking officials in the Air Force are pretty religious.
In Nick Redfern's book, Final Events, one of the strangest lines in that book is he says that the CIA began to infiltrate seances in 1952. And I was like, what the fuck? When I read that, I was like, where is he getting that from? And there's this book that's like extremely hard to find, bro. It's called Unmasking the Enemy. And it's what Nick Redfern cites is like where he got that sentence from. Unmasking the Enemy is by this guy named, I think his name's Nelson Pacheco. It's him and this other guy. And I think Nelson Pacheco was like a 20 plus year Air Force veteran. And he wrote this book about UFOs from like this Catholic perspective. And it talks a lot about angels and demons and all sorts of shit like that. But it's an extremely hard book to find. But that's what Redfern cites when he talks about that line of like infiltrating seances. Anyways, this guy Puharich was interested in weaponizing psychic ability, it appeared. And in the early 1950s, he had met this Indian mystic named Dr. Vinod. And he had convinced Vinod to like come to his farmhouse in Maine with this group he had. And his Puharich's parapsychological group was called the Round Table Foundation. And the members of this group were like absolute powerhouses in terms of like cultural Americans. They were like people that everyone knew and recognized. And essentially, it ended up being 9 people total. If you want to rattle them off, their names were Henry Jackson, Georgia Jackson, Alice Bouvier, Marcella DuPont, Carl Betts, Vonnie Beck, Arthur Young, Ruth Young, Andrija Puharich, and this mystic Dr. Vinod was like the channeler. Vinod began to channel some force and told the group that they had made contact with the 9. The 9 claimed through Vinod that 9 extraterrestrials, or 9 principles and forces, as they say, were now in contact with the group. They were extraterrestrial beings living on a large invisible spacecraft hovering over the planet. According to Peter Levenda's book on the 9, he says that Vinod went into a trance promptly at 12:15 a.m. and then R, one of the extraterrestrial 9, began speaking through him at 12:30 a.m. Threads appeared out of nowhere on the floor in front of Vinod, and he passed one to each of the human 9, telling them, "Tonight we want to create Brahmins in this world," and that the thread was a sign of their initiation. Puharich was very intrigued by this interaction and subsequently spent years trying to find mediums who could contact the 9. In the 1974 book Uri, A Journal of the Mystery of Uri Geller, Puharich catalogs meeting Geller in 1971 and eventually getting him to channel the 9. And one of the interesting things about Geller is like when he met Uri, he claimed that Uri was so, I guess you would say, powerful. He would say that he was so powerful that Uri could contact the entire 9 himself. Whereas Vinod, and when he would do this seance in 1953, they were channeling through the members of the group. It adds. I left that book with a lot of questions. Like I didn't know whether this group genuinely thought they were contacting a non-human intelligence, or I didn't know if Puharich was just putting on a show to influence these powerful Americans using some secret technology or method or practice. You know what I mean? Like it's possible that when they were holding that quote unquote seance, they might have been testing some technology on that Vinod guy. I'm just playing devil's advocate because like, I think to claim that everything that Vinod said was true, or what they reportedly said was true, and that all of those things were sincere and honest, I feel like that's an extraordinary claim and it would require extraordinary evidence. I feel like Occam's razor says that this group was involved in some shenanigans.
You're talking about some sort of like voice of God thing, like
Well,
where, yeah.
I didn't say it.
Yeah, so that brings me into something I wanted to talk about in this episode, which I think you're familiar with it. But it's called From PSYOP to Mind War, The Psychology of Victory. He basically starts off talking about psychotronics. Anyway, the footnote at the end of this, he talks about atmospheric electromagnetic activity and ionization of the air and ELF waves. And the main source for a lot of this stuff is this book called Cycles of Heaven. The book essentially is about how all the energy in the universe interacts with, the human body. Yeah, in this book, they talk about the Schumann resonance, which is basically a mechanism by which extremely low frequency and very low frequency waves are set up in a space between Earth's surface and the ionosphere. It constitutes a concave spherical cavity resonator, a conductive sphere surrounded by a dielectric, and Schumann found that when ELF wavelengths come close in length to that of the circumference of the Earth, a resonance system which produces the quote-unquote Schumann resonances is set up. Power spectra of these resonances reveal amplitude peaks at 7.8, 14.1, 20.3, 26.4, and 32.5 hertz, all within the ELF range. So the idea is that this resonance is, always present on the Earth and between, the surface and the ionosphere, and that any kind of fluctuations within this resonance cause effects on humans that kind of pushes us out of sync with our planet in a way, and might cause different behaviors, maybe social unrest. These are just kind of speculations that are out there. They've been kind of hijacked by New Age, people who want to, sell you fucking crystals to, keep your resonance in check and, that kind of thing. But there seems to be, something to it. If you think about it, we've evolved on this planet, with this same frequency in between the surface of the Earth and, the ionosphere. And along with the resonances, might make sense that any kind of perturbation or whatever you want to call it to that signal could affect us biologically in a way. What this book does is it goes through studies that, have pretty good scientific proof that these frequencies, coming from the cosmos, like they talk about extraterrestrial wavelengths that come down, and we're basically in a resonance with everything in the universe. It sounds super woo and that kind of thing, but it does cite a bunch of studies. I just wanted to read a couple of them. As for what can happen to living beings in such fields, some of the evidence is quite alarming. In one German experiment, honeybees were confined to an area containing a field of 50 hertz at 6,000 volts per meter. The bees became not only very restless, but so aggressive that they began to attack each other. Broods inside the hive were destroyed. Newly populated hives were abandoned in 3 days, while one whole hive inadvertently committed mass suicide by blocking the entrance to their hive, their normal defense against attackers from outside, and they suffocated. Another recent German experiment has shown that rats kept in an artificial 50 hertz field at 15 kilovolts per meter for 50 days had their heartbeats slowed down under the ELF field influence, the effect building up with repeated exposure. The purpose of this test was to find out whether the stringent regulations in force in the USSR regarding work near high-voltage cables were justified. It seems they are. So that kind of shit is pretty fucking nuts.
God damn.
Yeah, dude. So in 1974, this group of researchers wanted to prove that artificial ultraviolet radiation by itself could stimulate cell division. So to find out how information could get from one cell to another, they set up a test designed to show how cells would radiate under stress. All right, this is wild. They put 2 identical tissue cultures in separate sealed glass containers and placed a quartz barrier between them. Quartz, unlike ordinary glass, allows ultraviolet radiation to pass through it. Then they contaminated one culture with a lethal virus and noted that the other culture also began to suffer, as if it too had been given a fatal dose. Next, they took away the quartz and inserted an ordinary glass shield. The result was the uncontaminated culture went on growing normally while the other one died. This is said to have been repeated 5,000 times with a high rate of success. This claim has some wild implications. It's even been suggested that when they managed to destroy a culture screened from the virus by quartz, it was not the virus that killed, but an EM representation of it. Does this mean that an EM quote unquote virus pattern could be broadcast over TV channels by mistake or on purpose to infect cultures or people at a distance? We hope not. Electromagnetic representation of a virus being transmitted through TV channels while you're watching TV. Yet it is not altogether unreasonable to suggest that EM plays a greater part in the shaping of living forms that is generally admitted.
Well, that's that term mind war, bro. Is like you hear that term thrown around constantly. The point Aquino makes is that he thought the future of warfare was not shooting each other and bombing each other. He thought the future of warfare was manipulating your perspective and manipulating your idea of like right and wrong. I don't know, man. It just harkens back to that Slide 9 shit. It just puts a pit in your stomach because, like, I hope that our country, and I'm confident and optimistic our country does use those technologies. If any capacity they are used, it's in a legal, safe, good way. I'm scared as fuck about another country having that, you know,
or a non-state actor.
Oh, dude, that's a whole other can of worms.
Cell.
Yeah.
So on a lighter note, well, this isn't really a lighter note. This is crazy too. So strobe lights flashing at 10 hertz, right, can cause, I guess seizures. 10 hertz is the dominant brainwave frequency of DMN, I guess, dissociated state. This book basically postulates that anything like lights being flashed at 10 hertz, you know, like regardless if it's like a strobe light, you know, they basically talk about these roads in France that are lined with trees. And if the sun is setting or rising and it lines up to where the light is flashing in between the trees, depending on the speed you're going in your car, that could turn into the same exact thing pretty much as a light flashing 10 hertz at you. So it could put you in a dissociated state and you could just fucking like crash your car because the light is pulsing through the trees at a specific, 10 hertz rate. I've tried to do the math on that. I couldn't fucking figure it out. But they're basically saying, maybe speed up and slow down on these tree-lined streets, or else you might like dissociate and crash your fucking car. And then another thing that they also mentioned in this is helicopter pilots. They're subject to the flashing sunlight through the rotors above their heads, which theoretically puts them in the same potential position. That's a really interesting thing I never thought about before. That
a weird one that I heard like a rumor about was that like there's one type of technology that can invoke a spiritual experience. Like for whatever people cross-culturally describe as being like, oh my God, this is like a very special spiritual thing with an angel or a deva or whatever the fuck people believe in. Like apparently that can be invoked technologically. Apparently. I don't know. I don't even know if you want to include this, but there's a part of John Keel's The Eighth Tower that talks about materializations and why that might be. And he's also talking about the influence of like how the ancient people thought about these ideas of like parts of our earth having rhythms and parts of our earth being bathed in different amounts of rays. You know what I mean? Like, because he makes the point that like a lot of people believe in astrology, like read their horoscopes and truly think that like for whatever reason, the stars are telling them what the future will be. And but the ancients apparently knew that, like, if you study the stars closely enough, you'll understand the future, the past, the present, whatever. Keel was kind of harsh on that and was like, we have like this garbled idea of what astrology even was or is, or why it's even important that Jupiter is in a certain spot. And so I'm gonna blast through this real quick, and if you want to include it, that's fine. But if not, it's fine. He goes, forbidden books on black magic, witchcraft, and ancient religious beliefs all describe this basic materialization process, including solemn warnings to avert the eyes when you materialize an angel or demon through some secret rite, lest you suffer from conjunctivitis and other painful maladies produced by the rays of the electromagnetic spectrum. All mythology tells how one should not gaze upon the countenance of materialized God. Although they lacked proper terminology for these effects and were obliged to speak in terms of rays and vibrations, secret cults throughout the ages knew that entities moved into our reality through process of altering frequencies. In Babylonia, and probably in much earlier cultures, learned men were also aware of the fact that the earth is constantly being bathed in rays from outer space, and that somehow these rays influence the human condition. They attempted to define this mathematically through the science of astrology. They knew these mysterious rays definitely affected biological organisms, and the rays fluctuated in intensity at different times of the year, and they assumed these rays influenced different people in different ways. By observing the movements of the stars over periods of hundreds of years, they concluded the rays were controlled by such movements. Eventually, they went even further, presuming that the positions of the stars at the time of birth had some direct effect on the personalities and lives of individual humans. A large part of that early astrological knowledge is now lost. Modern astrology is based on the fragmented residue of that knowledge. The movements of the stars and planets are, of course, largely illusory. The Earth is moving instead, and what we see from this pitiful drifting speck of cosmic flotsam is not a valid view of the cosmos. The movement of the planets and stars doesn't really mean a damn thing. What is important is the movement of the Earth and its position in orbit at different points in time. We are moving continuously through vast fields of energy and space. Some of these fields undoubtedly have a great biological effect. It doesn't matter at all that Venus is in conjunction with Jupiter. What does matter, apparently, is that the planet Earth is traveling through a field of energy of a certain intensity at a certain time. If you were born in 1940, you were bathed in rays quite different from those that might have affected people born in, say, 1910. Modern astrology is merely a corrupted method for translating these influences into humanly acceptable terms. I thought that that was really cool. Even before we had modern science, that just shows that people were thinking about our Earth's rhythms and how it affects us biologically. And it seems like what we have now is like this garbled version of that. That's you know what I'm saying? It seems like
Yeah.
he used the term largely illusory because, like, when we look up at the stars, we're seeing a much different picture of what's actually next to us and close to us and where we're going.
I don't know. It makes me wonder about geomagnetic pole reversals. Like when you think about South Atlantic anomaly, getting bigger, I guess. I don't know. I read yesterday that it's like splitting in two, and who knows what kind of horrifying shit that's going to bring about. But
Can I ask you something dumb?
yeah,
What the fuck is a pole reversal? Like, I keep hearing that term, and I don't know what that means or what to think about it.
so it's not even like the reversal that's going to be a problem. It's like the weakening of the Earth's magnetic field leading up to it and after it. So it's when the polarity of the Earth's magnetic field like flips. Yeah, it's happened, a bunch of times, and I actually read an article on it that one of them happened like 42,000 years ago, and it was
Of
apparently
the sun or the earth?
the Earth.
Oh, shit.
So the one that happened 40, I guess it's 41,000 years ago, they call it the Adams event. So the study used ancient New Zealand kauri trees to develop a detailed record of atmospheric radiocarbon levels across, I think it's pronounced the Lachamps excursion. The crazy thing about this one is so 42,000 years ago, there was a shitload more ultraviolet radiation that came down. Like the magnetic field of Earth was so weak that like basically all these cosmic rays and UV radiation could actually go through and hit the surface of the Earth. And interestingly, this coincided with cave art, like the explosion of cave art across the world. So their theory is like once this magnetic pole flip and the associated weakening of the magnetic field during that time happened, and all this ultraviolet light was hitting the actual surface of the Earth, that caused us and our ancestors. That's when we went into the caves, and that's why there's such a huge explosion of cave art around that time. Is because we took refuge in the caves, and that's when the Neanderthals died out. There's a lot of stuff that like lines up with that.
Dude, I just want to say when you mention like rays and radiation and how it affects us as people, is that like I'm sure people already know this, but like areas that have the most like radiation, like contamination or inappropriate spilling of shit, that's where you see so many mutations in the area around it and the nature around it. Like radiation can truly fuck with DNA in a big way and really like hurt the genes and like, in my opinion, genetic stock of whatever community it's affecting when it's really like in when the exposure is too great, I should say. And that reminds me of what Tom DeLonge has said about like how our DNA has to do with the other's idea of like proliferating on this planet. And it could be that like too much or too little exposure to radiation may throw us off of where we need to be if our DNA is some sort of commodity.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it's dark.
That shit freaks me out.
Yeah.
And the other interesting thing is the use of ochre skin coverings.
What is that?
Natural clay earth pigment.
Okay.
So use of that for sunscreen around that time is another interesting correlation they made to the time of that pole reversal, because I guess they insinuated that they used that for sunscreen. The other interesting part about the cave art is that it was so common. Their hypothesis is that it definitely had to have happened before, they all moved into the caves.
You know who wrote a cool book? It's a fictional book. That Travis Taylor guy, he wrote a book called Saving Proxima, and it's like a sci-fi book. And one of the parts of the book, these scientists, it's essentially we find out that there's like another civilization out there that needs help. And I guess we go to send a team to go assist. And there's a part of this book where it's like set in the future for one. And it says that like there's these scientists examining cave paintings. And they're talking about how like the people of the time, whatever civilization was before us, what they were depicting was that like these things existed in a very electromagnetic way, and that the last solar flare is what likely took them out or something like that. It was saying that the properties of that previous civilization was much more like acclimated to a different amount of radiation and solar exposure. And for whatever reason, whether it was some like pole flip or solar flare, that was what some of these paintings were depicting, was that this
That's
civilization
cool.
got like, So Travis Taylor's a cool guy. And I don't know if people know that he's a sci-fi writer too, but that's a cool. Yeah, he gives real interesting perspectives on things. But that was a big part of his book, Saving Proxima, was what we're discussing right now.
Yeah, there's actually 3 days ago, a new study came out saying they found evidence of a solar flare 14,300 years ago that was 10 times more intense than the Carrington event. So that's kind of scary.
Holy shit.
Yeah, Carrington event was in 1859, and it knocked out telegraph lines and says it tricked many people into thinking it was morning at 1 a.m. Yet that event pales in comparison to another solar storm that occurred 14,300 years ago. So the sun is seems a little more unpredictable than mainstream science would lead us to believe, and just the effects these things have on us, just in general. It's interesting to think about, especially when you think about like the Schumann resonance and how we evolved with that frequency up until this time, and any, just wondering what any kind of fluctuation in that base frequency. I don't know, man. It's weird to think about.
That is an interesting. Now that you say it like that, I wonder if the say the Schumann resonance is just the Earth's baseline. Like that's what the Earth's
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So like let's say that the Schumann resonance has changed over time, and that at one point, instead of that 7.83, that it was like 6.74 or something. Just that slight little difference could probably influence all of the Earth's biosphere and like
that
everything
small
within.
like amounts of electromagnetic radiation like throw off birds migrating
Right.
patterns. So like translate that like fluctuations into the resonance that we're used to on every day. Any fluctuations in that could throw off whatever.
Do you know if the resonance is supposed to increase or decrease? Or is it trending a certain direction? Do we know? Have we ever measured it other than 7.83 to like in terms of our modern understanding of measuring this? Or is it just like.
No, I think that there's like some fucking Russian website that like people screen grab from when there's fluctuations in it, and they're like, people are gonna fucking go crazy. It's basically what they were talking about in Mind War, is the Schumann resonance and fluctuations within the natural electromagnetic environment, or just Earth's magnetic field, and really makes you wonder what's going to happen, because there's definitely going to be another reversal, and it seems like it's coming up soon.
What?
Yeah.
What do you mean? How do you know that?
What do you mean? What do I mean? The fucking our magnetic field's been getting weaker, like more progressively. It's like speeding up. This shit's happening, dude.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Is there a way to like save us from that? Or is that even an existential threat? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, doesn't seem like anyone's doing anything about it, except Elon Musk, who's like trying to drill into the Earth and go to Mars.
Dude, I was gonna ask you about him.
Like, you gotta like Peter Thiel has like a fucking bunker in New Zealand. Like, look at what these rich like billionaires who have fucking clearances with the DOD to like do all these contracts and shit. Like, look at what they're doing. Tell me how that doesn't freak you out, that they're like going full on like doomsday.
Oh yeah,
they have information. And
dude, the head of Nestle said he wanted to own all the water. What the fuck?
What?
Dude, maybe I could be wrong. I heard that from Bill Burr, but he said that the fucking head of Nestle was in an interview. And
I saw something about him.
He said that he alluded to the idea that he would like Nestle to own all of the fresh water so they could sell it. I'm like, that is the weirdest shit ever. The fact that we even sell water at all tells you we got some shit majorly wrong. Yep. Because, dude, water is basic. How that's like in the fucking Lorax when they're charging for air, fucking buying fresh air. Like, dude, you can buy air. One of the fuck.
You go to oxygen bars,
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's so weird. Have you ever been to one of those? I haven't, but my friend took a picture when he was at one, and it's just like everyone's got like the fucking tubes in their nose, and it's like looks like a hospital. I don't know. It's so weird.
It basically is.
Like everyone's sick. Yeah, man. I think I think we're good. We just
Hold on. I just pulled up the quote from this Nestle guy so he doesn't sue me, because
yeah.
this is what he says. Water, of course, is the most. I already fucked it up. Water is, of course, the most important raw material we have today in the world. It's a question of whether we should privatize the normal water supply for the population. And there are two different opinions on the matter. The one opinion, which I think is extreme, is represented by the NGOs who bang on about declaring water a public right. That means that as a human being, you should have a right to water. That's an extreme solution. The other view says that water is a foodstuff like any other, and like any other foodstuff, it should have a market value. Personally, I believe it's better to give a foodstuff a value so that we're all aware it has its price, and then that one should take specific measures for the part of the population that has no access to this water, and there are many different possibilities there. So, just
These
for
people are
clarity, that's
fucking
from Snopes.
crazy. These people are out of their fucking minds with this gaslighting. Oh my. Oh God. Anyway. fuck Nestle, bro.
Yeah, dude. Fuck Nestle. Patterns tell stories. We are boycotting you, Nestle.
Oh my God, it's horrible. Football games starting in 2 minutes. So,
Hell yeah, dude. I'm about to take first place, too.
Oh God.
I hope you looked. I already scored 44, bro. This guy's sweating. He didn't respond to my shit talking at all. And
Yeah,
he's like,
I play my wife this week, so lose on my end.
Nice.
Yeah, you got anything to plug?
Not particularly right now.
Oh, we're doing a space for UFO Twitter week, so
Oh yeah, we are doing a space.
look out for that on
When is
Twitter. The week of the 1st, so
Oh, okay. So
soonish. Yeah. We'll probably have another episode out before we do that, but
yeah.
be on the lookout for that. I have a new article out that's kind of expanded on the Antarctica thing we were talking about last week, but also added a bunch more stuff to it, and it's a fun one. Go check it out. I think it's called the Frozen something. The Frozen Veil. Yeah, it's fun. Go check it out. And yeah, I think we're good, man.
Sweet. Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll see you all next week.